I was supposed to say thank you on camera, just a simple, grateful little sister. Instead, I looked straight into the lens and froze. My sister Evelyn smiled beside me, polished, perfect, every word scripted. What they didn't know was the footage they planned to broadcast was stolen. My trauma, my breakdown, my lowest moment turned into content. The applause wasn't real. The hugs were rehearsed. And while the world saw a family healing, I was busy decoding her empire. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done playing her narrative. This wasn't a story of forgiveness. It was a takedown, quiet, precise, and final. The lights were already on when I walked into the house. Soft, golden filters cast a fake warmth over every surface. Fairy lights curled around the beams. A perfectly arranged charcuterie board sat untouched on the kitchen island. And the scent of lavender floated through the air, controlled, curated, intentional. Evelyn's voice rang out from the dining room, crisp and rehearsed, like it had been written by an assistant and run through a PR team. And tonight, she beamed to the camera, isn't just about family. It's about healing, growth, radical love. She turned toward me just as I stepped into frame, her arms wide. The camera panned as we hugged. Her perfume was overpowering and her grip too firm. "I'm so proud of you for showing up," she whispered into my ear, her breath sweet and condescending. "Just be who they need you to be, okay?" They, not us, not me, they. I hadn't seen my sister in nearly 2 years, not since the day my startup folded and my bank account hit zero. I'd gone dark after that, deleted socials, blocked numbers, spent months sleeping on the floor of a friend's spare room, trying to remember what it felt like to be someone worth returning a call to. And now, here I was, back in the family home, under the warm glow of ring lights with Evelyn, filming a dinner like it was a documentary. The dining table was a stage. A handheld camera floated beside my mother's face, capturing every reaction. Slogans like "Forgive loudly" and "Pain is a portal" hung behind us, printed on pastel backdrops. I felt like I'd walked into a therapist's Pinterest board, and none of it was real. "Let's do a quick moment of gratitude," Evelyn said, standing at the head of the table. "And Emily, you're our guest of honor. You go first." I blinked. "Guest of honor?" "You're back," she said, all teeth. "You've survived. You're the inspiration." I looked around. Every eye was on me. Even the cameraman had leaned in. "I'm grateful for having a chance to eat good food with people I grew up with," I muttered. Evelyn clapped like I'd just delivered a TED talk. "See? She gets it." When the cameras finally cut for dinner, Evelyn pulled me aside into the hallway. "You'll read this during dessert," she said, handing me a folded paper. "Just a short script. Talk about your journey. Mention how you hit bottom but found grace. Make it raw. The audience eats that up." I opened the paper. "I'm not reading this." She raised a brow. "Why not?" "Because it's not true, and I'm not your content." Evelyn smiled, but her eyes didn't. "You're not my content, Emily. You're my context." "What the hell does that even mean?" "It means you're part of the story. You always were. You just never learned how to tell it." Behind her, I noticed something hanging on the wall. A photo frame, part of a collage. My high school graduation photo, the one where I was holding up a scholarship award. Except my face had been cut off, literally sliced out, like someone had trimmed the image to fit a different narrative. The rest of the frame was filled with Evelyn's achievements. A magazine cover, her book launch, a yoga retreat with a celebrity. She followed my gaze, then leaned in. Don't worry. They'll remember you after tonight. Back in the dining room, the mood had shifted. Evelyn had prepped the family while I was gone. My mother leaned over and said in a hushed tone, "I think it's a beautiful opportunity, Emily. No one else gets this much screen time, you know." "I'm not here for screen time," I replied. "Don't be ungrateful," she snapped quietly, smile plastered in place. "Evelyn didn't have to include you, but she did." I looked at Evelyn, who was now posing for a selfie with her husband and tagging every sponsor imaginable. She didn't include me, she owned me. And in that moment, I realised something wasn't right. This wasn't a dinner, it was a setup, a stage, and I was cast in a role I hadn't auditioned for. Why did Evelyn need me to speak about failure and gratitude now, after ignoring me for years? Why tonight, on a live stream with millions watching? I pushed the folded script into my pocket and stared at my sister, who laughed a little too loudly, smiled a little too perfectly, and looked, just for a split second, like someone who needed control more than applause. Whatever game she was playing, I wasn't going to play it her way, not anymore. The morning after the live stream, my phone buzzed with dozens of notifications, even though I hadn't posted anything. I opened the app out of reflex, and there it was, my face, smiling, superimposed over a quote I never wrote. "Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's choosing love when hate is easier. Thank you, Evelyn, for helping me see that." My name was tagged. So was Evelyn's wellness brand. I froze. The photo was from last night, but I hadn't smiled like that. Not once. Not that wide. Not that bright. The lighting looked wrong too, like it had been constructed. I scrolled down and found dozens of reposts, followers calling me brave, inspirational, a symbol of resilience. "Emily's strength gives me hope. So proud of her healing journey." I cried watching her story. Except I hadn't told a story. I hadn't healed. I hadn't forgiven. And I definitely hadn't smiled like that. At first I thought it was a miscommunication. Maybe Evelyn's team just jumped the gun. But as I clicked deeper into the links, the pattern became clearer. She'd built an entire narrative around me. There were blog posts, Twitter threads, even a carousel post called "How My Sister Taught Me Grace," featuring staged photos, me hugging Evelyn, me laughing at dinner, me looking contemplative beneath a fake quote about second chances. She hadn't just used me, she'd fabricated me. I tried commenting on one of the posts, clarifying that I hadn't approved anything. Within minutes, my comment was buried under a wave of replies, calling me bitter, jealous, toxic. One said, "It's always the broken ones who want to ruin something beautiful." Another, "Don't let her backtrack. She's just upset she's not the famous sister." I sat on my bed, phone trembling in my hand, trying to process it all. Somewhere along the line, I'd stopped being a person and become a symbol. Evelyn's symbol, a cautionary tale turned redemption arc. And the worst part, people loved it. That night, I received a link to a promotional video Evelyn had just released for her latest online course, Radical Recovery, Healing from Family Hurt. I hesitated before clicking, but I had to see. The video opened with soft piano music. Evelyn sat cross-legged on a couch, speaking gently to the camera. "In our lives," she said, "we often carry pain we didn't choose, but we can choose what to do with it. My sister Emily taught me that." Then it cut to a montage. Me, eyes puffy, hair a mess, taken from a private photo I barely remembered ever being snapped. Another clip, me wiping tears, cropped in slow motion, paired with a voiceover of Evelyn saying, "She faced her shadows. She chose light." I wanted to vomit. She'd weaponized my breakdown, my actual trauma, dressed up, packaged, sold as inspiration. And then came the final gut punch, a clip of me laughing, clearly stitched together from multiple frames, movements disjointed, lighting inconsistent. It was a deep fake. My face had been manipulated to perform. I slammed the laptop shut. Whatever line I thought Evelyn wouldn't cross, she'd obliterated it. I made a post of my own, short, sharp, and painfully real. I have not participated in any promotional content for Evelyn's brand. Any image or quote attached to me is used without consent. Within hours, the backlash began, not against her, against me. She's jealous. She's trying to ruin her sister's success. She's ungrateful. Didn't Evelyn help her after her failure? Evelyn posted a screenshot of a supposed text from me. I wish I could be famous like you. Fake, obviously fake, but convincing enough for those who needed to believe it. My inbox filled with hate. I was called a liar, a parasite, a backstabber. People I hadn't spoken to in years chimed in. Even my mother texted me, "Why are you doing this? You're tearing the family apart." No one asked if it was true. No one cared. I closed my phone, heart pounding. Everything felt tight, like the walls were caving in. I was being erased by a more palatable version of myself, one that served Evelyn's image, not the truth. I didn't know what to do next. Then a notification buzzed quietly, a direct message. The profile had no name, no photo, just a single line of text. I saw what she did to you. She did it to me too. I have proof. If you want it, reply yes. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the screen. Outside, the sun had gone down. Inside me, something darker had just begun to rise. I replied yes. The anonymous profile responded within minutes, sending a zip file, password protected, with a message. Play audio file 03 first. Listen all the way through. No interruptions. My hands trembled as I entered the password. The file opened with static, then laughter. Evelyn's laughter, cold, calculated. "We need a new angle," she was saying. "The sister thing's plateauing. We need a rupture, then a reconciliation. Think bigger stakes." Another voice, male, probably her PR agent, asked, "What kind of rupture?" "She disappears," Evelyn replied, casual like she was planning a lunch date. "Goes dark again, public breakdown. We wait. Then I release a forgiveness campaign, paint her as the prodigal. Redemption arc. Guaranteed virality." The PR guy laughed. "You think she'll go for it?" "She won't have a choice. We just need a trigger, something ugly enough." Silence. Then she added, almost bored, "Hire someone, a fake ex. Get him to leak something about her. Abusive relationship, emotional manipulation, that'll do it." I paused the recording, stomach twisting. A sick realization unfolded. This wasn't just a social media stunt. This was premeditated character assassination, crafted, funded, executed for engagement metrics. I opened the next folder. Screenshots, payment receipts to an account under a fake talent agency. A contract, perform as Tyler Monroe, ex-partner of Emily Clark. Deliver statements per attached script. Signed, sealed. One click later, I was staring at the man who'd gone viral last year in a teary confessional video, claiming I had isolated him, emotionally degraded him, and destroyed his confidence. I'd never met him, not once. The campaign had worked. Brands dropped me. Former friends distanced themselves. Job interviews dried up. I'd thought it was because I failed, because I was no longer impressive. But now I knew Evelyn had architected my erasure. The knock on my door that night wasn't Evelyn. It was my mother. "I saw what you posted," she said, eyes tired. "Why are you doing this?" I blinked. "Doing what?" "Attacking your sister. She's trying so hard to help you. She forgave you publicly. Why can't you let it go?" I laughed, a short, bitter exhale. "She hired a man to say I abused him." Mum flinched. "That's ridiculous." "I have recordings, contracts, bank transfers." She crossed her arms. "Even if that's true, why now? Why destroy what she's built?" "She destroyed me first." "You're not a victim, Emily. You just never learned how to share the spotlight." My mouth went dry. "You believe that?" "She pays the mortgage," she snapped. Then softer, almost shamefully, "I didn't ask her to." But she stepped up. "When you disappeared, she was here." I looked at her and saw not cruelty, but cowardice. Complicity born from convenience. When she left, I didn't cry. I couldn't. Something inside me had calcified. My name, my life had been rewritten, digitally, emotionally, socially, until I no longer recognized myself. My choices weren't mine. My silence wasn't mine. Even my failures weren't mine. So I vanished. Deleted everything. Accounts, contacts, identity. I moved to a remote cabin in Oregon. A friend of a friend's place, off-grid, disconnected. I slept too much, or not at all. Days bled into each other like bruises. I stopped checking the news. I stopped checking myself. Sometimes I'd imagine drifting into the forest, lying down in the cold and letting it end. Just silence. Then, one afternoon, while hauling trash down the dirt path, I saw a boy, maybe 7, sitting on a rock with a tablet. Evelyn's voice echoed faintly from the screen. She was mid-sentence. "And that's why, when people hurt you, you smile and choose love. Because love is the cure." The boy repeated after her, word for word, like a pledge. He turned, noticed me, and waved. "Do you watch Miss Evelyn too?" I smiled weakly, heart stinging. "Not anymore." He grinned. "She says her sister used to be mean, but then she changed. That's nice, right?" My throat tightened. He went back to his video, eyes wide with trust. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was afraid, but because I wasn't. Because it hit me. Evelyn didn't just ruin me. She was rewriting reality. For profit, for prestige, for attention, and people, children, were believing her. If I stayed silent, this would continue, not just for me, for others, for those too scared, too small, too cornered to fight back. I got up, opened my laptop, typed "how to investigate digital fraud" anonymously. Google lit up. So did something inside me. I didn't come back as myself, not online, not on paper. I built a new identity from scratch, burner emails, encrypted browsers, clean devices. Emily Clark disappeared. What remained was a nameless entity who watched, listened, and documented. Through a quiet network of online investigators, I accessed financial records tied to Evelyn's wellness empire. Donation logs, payment processors, private PayPal receipts labelled healing support and emotional transformation, thousands of them. Each one from someone desperate. And many of them, I noticed, weren't just clients. They were victims. The receipts led me to a private forum, survivors of emotional abuse, gaslighting, spiritual manipulation. I searched Evelyn's name, hundreds of hits. Some posts had been removed. Others were buried beneath layers of SEO spam. But I found one that stopped my breath cold. The user only posted once, nearly a year ago. I attended Evelyn's forgiveness retreat last spring. We were told to write letters forgiving those who hurt us, even if they were our abusers. When I refused, she told me I was blocking my own healing. That night, I had a panic attack. 2 weeks later, I watched my cousin take her own life because she couldn't carry the shame. Evelyn says, "Healing is light," but all I found was silence. The username looked familiar. When I searched deeper, I found confirmation. It was my cousin, Jenna, 19, sensitive, sweet. Gone now for over 8 months. I hadn't known where she'd been that final month. No one in the family talked about it. Evelyn said it was depression, that she had tried to help. But Evelyn had hosted that retreat. She'd preached forced forgiveness to a room full of trauma survivors. And Jenna hadn't survived it. Rage cracked something inside me, not heat, but clarity, the kind that sharpens instead of blinds. I reached out to the journalist again. This time, she replied instantly. We met in a secure chat room, joined by 3 others, faces blurred, names encrypted, former employees, former friends, former fans. Together we formed The Reckoning. We weren't after revenge, not anymore. We wanted exposure, truth, consequences. In one meeting, a man named Sam shared a PDF, an internal report from a regulatory agency. Evelyn had once been under investigation by the FTC for misleading advertising and unauthorised mental health claims, but the case never made it public. Why? Then came the third twist. Evelyn's father, my father, had worked in that very agency, retired early, and conveniently the file was archived without further inquiry. He buried it, protected her, again. I was done playing the quiet daughter. We divided tasks. One monitored social engagement. One dissected every video for AI fingerprints. I tracked her financial trail. Another, an expert in NLP, decoded language patterns in her healing courses, revealing embedded, coercive suggestions. Our final target, Evelyn's newest campaign, a national book release titled The Cleanse Letting Go for Good. Tour dates scheduled, TV appearances booked, bookstores lined up with early copies. The timing was perfect. We gathered everything: deepfake detection reports, falsified testimonials, audio of Evelyn coaching staff on how to bait emotional outbursts during workshops. Then I did what Evelyn had always feared most. I contacted one of her biggest corporate sponsors, not as Emily, as a researcher. I presented the data, no threats, no demands, just a quiet summary of how their brand was tied to manipulated media, suicide-linked testimonials, and AI-enhanced false advertising. The rep paused, then asked if she could forward it to legal. Yes, I said, and you might want to cancel the book pre-order bulk buys. This might go public soon. Next, I created anonymous press packets, neatly categorized by issue: consumer fraud, unlicensed therapy, exploitation of mental health. Each one included visual proofs and metadata timestamps. The final packet was time-stamped for 48 hours before Evelyn's book launch, a timed release. Send all leaks? Confirm. I hovered over the button. Evelyn's face stared back from her website, serene, angelic, manufactured. In the corner of her homepage, a countdown ticker pulsed in soft gold. Only 2 days until you're free. I clicked send. It started like any other launch day for Evelyn: polished makeup, soft lighting, a carefully angled camera. She sat beneath a floral arch, a stack of her new book beside her, smiling to a live audience of over 300,000 viewers. Today, she said, isn't about me. It's about your healing, your light, your courage. The comments flooded in, hearts, praises, affirmations. Her team pushed hashtags, book sales ticked upward. But at minute 16, something shifted. A staffer off camera stepped forward and whispered. Evelyn's smile faltered. "Could you excuse me 1 second?" she said sweetly. The stream cut to a holding slide. In that break, everything unravelled. First came the headline on Forbes.com. Exclusive interview with Evelyn Clark cancelled amid ethical concerns. Below it, a statement. We have chosen to re-evaluate our coverage pending new information. Then, her largest sponsor, the wellness supplement giant Heel Nest, tweeted, "We are suspending our partnership with Evelyn Clark and initiating an internal investigation." And then the real bomb, Shranged fake guru Evelyn, hit trending on Twitter. Within an hour, every major news outlet had picked it up. Anonymous leaks flooded platforms, clips of Evelyn coaching fake testimonials, receipts from hush payments, deep fake analysis showing altered videos. Specialists explained how AI had been used to reshape faces and tears. A side-by-side comparison of real versus doctored footage went viral. When Evelyn returned to the live stream, she looked pale. "I just want to say," her voice cracked, "this is a coordinated attack. I've only ever wanted to help people. That's all I've done." She tried to cry. This time it didn't work. In the comments section, sympathy had turned sour. "You helped yourself to people's pain." "I forgave my abuser because of you. Now I hate myself." "You lied," with a soft voice. "That's worse." Then came the final twist, one she couldn't silence. A user named A Healing From You posted a long thread claiming to be a former mentee. Her story unfolded in screenshots, DMs, receipts. Evelyn, it turned out, had invited her into a private mentorship program. But soon the language turned intimate, manipulative, controlling. She was 22. "She told me that touch was part of the healing process," the girl wrote. "She said our connection was sacred. When I resisted, she ghosted me and blocked me from the retreat." The story was heartbreaking and real. The girl included therapy notes, voice memos, emails. Even Evelyn's voice. "What we have is soul work. The body is just a vessel." Within minutes, the post exploded. Influencers distanced themselves. Bookstores pulled her title. Even her own staff began resigning, one by one, each releasing a statement. By sunset, the live stream was deleted, the book removed from shelves. Evelyn's face was nowhere to be found, except in exposés. But the storm didn't stop there. Authorities reopened old investigations, including the dormant FTC complaint. This time, they found that Evelyn's father had intervened. Documents missing, witnesses uncontacted, pressure quietly applied. Now it was his name in headlines too. My mother wasn't spared. She had acted as Evelyn's silent financial proxy, holding accounts, processing funds under the radar to avoid taxes. When the banks froze assets, her savings evaporated. She called me once, left a voicemail sobbing. I didn't respond, because by then the empire had collapsed. Evelyn released a single statement on her now-locked Instagram. "I am stepping away from public life. I need healing too. Please respect my journey." Then silence. She didn't go to prison. She didn't offer refunds. She didn't apologize. She just vanished. Rumors said she'd gone to a retreat in Bali or maybe joined a monastic group in Arizona. But it didn't matter. The truth had spoken. And I never showed my face. Instead, I uploaded a single anonymous video to a private site used by survivors of influencer abuse. Just my voice. You don't need to scream for justice. You don't need to beg for it. You build it quietly, meticulously. until one day the ones who tried to define you can no longer define themselves. I never said Evelyn's name, but everyone knew. The reckoning began as a whisper, just a small encrypted chat room with 5 people, me, a journalist, and 3 others who once believed in Evelyn. But once the truth came out, the inbox filled. Emails from all over the world, men, women, survivors, former employees, students, clients, people who had spent years thinking their pain was their fault, that their trauma was a reflection of weakness, that if they weren't healed, it was because they hadn't tried hard enough. We gave them something small but life-altering. Proof. Proof that their pain had been packaged and sold, that their stories had been taken, edited, reframed for likes and shares, that they weren't crazy, they weren't alone. The reckoning evolved from a private chat into a non-profit collective. We held anonymous workshops on digital defense, emotional coercion, and how to recognize the language of manipulation disguised as healing. We launched a hotline. We partnered with therapists who understood the damage a charismatic fraud could do. We created a safe space where silence wasn't a cage, it was a choice. We never named Evelyn, that wasn't the point. We weren't interested in fame or retribution, just protection, prevention, peace. I wrote again for the first time in years, but not as Emily Clark. The book was published under a collective pseudonym, its cover bare, its author simply listed as a survivor among many. The book spread slowly, not through publishers or platforms, but by word of mouth, among therapy groups, survivor forums, college campuses. People read it, passed it on, left it in waiting rooms, slid it under dorm room doors. It became something Evelyn never understood, organic. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived by mail. From a university, they'd read the book, traced it to the reckoning. They were starting a new program, one focused on ethical communication, digital integrity, and psychological accountability in media. They asked if I would come teach, not lecture, not perform, just speak, on my terms. The first day I walked into that classroom, I didn't wear makeup, I didn't wear a blazer, just jeans, a cotton sweater, and a small pin in the shape of a flame. The students sat quietly, unsure of what to expect. I stood in front of the whiteboard, hands relaxed, heart still. My name isn't important, I said, but my silence used to be, so today I want to talk about what it means to speak without needing to be heard. We talked about truth, not the loud kind, but the slow, steady kind. We talked about how to tell a story ethically, how to see through performance, how to know when compassion becomes a currency. After class, a girl about 20 stayed behind. She hovered near the door, then finally asked, "Have you ever forgiven them?" I paused. "No," I said gently. "I chose freedom instead. It lasts longer." She nodded. I could see the gears turning in her mind. That was enough. I live in a cabin now, off a dirt road in the Pacific Northwest, surrounded by trees that don't ask questions. I have a garden, carrots, kale, wild strawberries. I teach my online class in the mornings. I take long walks in the afternoon. My only roommate is a quiet rescue dog I named Whisper. He doesn't bark, just stays close. I deleted every social media account long ago. My name is a ghost in the algorithm. No one who hikes past my cabin or chats with me at the local farmer's market knows who I was, or what I survived. And that anonymity feels like sunlight. Sometimes I'll get a letter from a former student, a mother, a survivor. They've read the book, attended a reckoning group. They don't ask for answers. They just write to say, "I thought I was the only one. thank you. I don't reply to most. They don't need me. They found themselves. Tonight, I sit at my desk, a cup of tea cooling beside me. Whisper sleeps at my feet, curled into a shape that almost looks like the reckoning symbol. I open an old journal, one I haven't touched in over a decade. Inside is a letter I once wrote to myself at 25. Never mailed, never finished. Just raw lines scrawled in the dark. You feel like you've failed, like something inside you is broken. You wonder if you were ever real to begin with, or just a reflection of everyone else's spotlight. I pick up a pen. For the first time in years, I write back, you weren't broken, you were silenced. Now you speak without needing a stage. I close the journal. No fanfare, no camera, just truth. That's all I ever needed.